Okay. Um, Dwight Little, hello, how are you? I'm so excited to be chatting with you today about your book and all of the amazing things you've done in the world of horror and genre.
Well, it's my pleasure. We were just saying Dread Central's a thing.
It's a thing. Well, so can you tell our viewers a little bit about your book that you have coming out?
So it's called Still Rolling Inside the Hollywood Dream Factory. I wrote it because I had been guest lecturing at UCLA about to a
Oh,
bunch of
cool.
very eager film students, and there were so many questions and so much interest, and I thought, everybody keeps asking, I have my nephew wants to get into the film business, and everybody seems to be interested in film school and filmmaking, and then there's a lot of people who just are interested in movies. So I thought I should write some of this down. And I do have an interesting perspective because I spent 15, almost 20 years in movies, indies and studio movies, and then about the same amount of time in network television,
Yeah.
including TV movies and series. And so I have a view, kind of a bird's eye view of directing for both, and it's quite different. And so I kind
Yeah.
of tried to lay that out a little bit. So I think, yeah, people who are interested in film will love it, and film students, film eager, want to make film, people will like it. It's fun.
That's awesome. Well, and I'm thinking that a lot of horror fans especially will like want to read it and check it out and see what you have to say about Halloween 4, The Return
Well,
of
there's
Michael
good
Myers.
dirt. There's good dirt about Halloween 4. There's also a long bit about Phantom of the Opera, which,
Yeah,
which
Phantom of
is
the
like my
Opera.
personal favorite. So there's quite a bit in there about Robert and Jill and all that movie. And then, yeah, so and then, Dusk Till Dawn with Robert Rodriguez had some horror elements. And of course, the X-Files did as well.
Oh yeah. Well, so I would love to hear about how you got involved with Halloween 4 and kind of if you can tell me just a little bit about like your experience getting involved in that franchise.
I had made a film of all places in India, a little action adventure movie called Bloodstone, which I promise you
Oh.
don't know about. But it starred a famous South Indian actor named Rajnikant, who now is like a politician and a big deal. Anyway, Mustafa Khan tried to bring Michael back because in Season of the Witch, they made their choices and it
Yeah.
had really done as well as they'd hoped. And then, of course, at the end of two, Michael and Dr. Loomis were kind of taken out of the picture. So they were all stuck about how to bring it back. And it had now been 10 years. Mustafa owned all the rights. And so they were looking for a director. And I had a reel of another film I'd done that he was very interested in. But mostly he shot movies all over the world. Mustafa Khan was the director himself.
Yeah.
He had done Lion of the Desert with Anthony Quinn and all these big movies, and he was very curious about anybody who had just shot in India. So I snuck into the meeting. But here was my secret weapon was I was working on a spec script with Alan B. McElroy, who was my writing partner, who's later gone on to write the Wrong Turn franchise, among many other things.
Cool.
And so he was a huge Halloween fan, and I went in and pitched Halloween 4 because they had a treatment and they had an outline that I think Carpenter had been involved with, but they had a falling out apparently. And I didn't want to do any of the things that they had planned. I just said, I don't want to do any of this, which was pretty gutsy for a guy who had no leverage. And they said, well, what would you do? And I pretty much pitched him the movie. He escapes from the mental institution. Dr. Loomis is on his trail. He gets the overalls from a garage. He shuts down the phone lines. He shuts down the power lines. He's able to get the mask from a drugstore. He throws Bucky into the wires in order to shut down the power. And then we watch Michael sort of rebuild himself from an escaped burn victim into Michael Myers coming after Jamie Lloyd. So, and I pitched him everything, including the ending where,
Oh.
with the thing where she gets taken over by Michael's power And then she's got the little clown suit, which she got from the same drugstore. I call it a drugstore. That's really old fashioned, isn't it? What do people say now? Box store? I don't know.
Pharmacy? Wait,
Pharmacy, maybe.
pharmacy, I guess? I don't.
Did you grow up with calling things
I
drugstore?
did. I
You
did grow
did.
up going things to drugstore. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so I let, and they just all looked at me in the room like kind of blindsided. And they said, well, thank you for coming in. And I left thinking, well, okay. I took my shot, and that's not, but then we got a call, we meaning the manager got a call, a couple days later and said, well, we're interested in this, but we have to shoot like right now because we have an October release and there's a writer's strike coming up just like the one we just had
Wow.
in 10 days. And I went to Alan and we pounded out the story, and Alan wrote this script. I swear to God, he wrote it in 10 days. It was unbelievable.
Oh my God.
Turned the script in, and we went up to Salt Lake and started shooting. So everything about the show was push, push, rush, rush, rush. But I was able to fly to New York to do casting.
Oh,
And,
good.
and yeah, because everybody I read for Jamie Lloyd and for Rachel Carruthers in LA, I didn't like them.
Oh,
I didn't
really?
like him. And I kept going to Mustafa and saying, I don't like anybody. And he says, well, out of all these actors, you can't find anybody. And it was like the girls for Rachel, they were all like sexy and smart, and
Uh-huh.
there was nothing Midwestern about them. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
I
Yeah.
just, they were all like LA actresses,
Hmm.
and some of them had a lot of talent to be sure and beautiful to be sure, but I didn't believe any of it. And
Yeah.
then the problem with kids is kids are trained to do one thing at that age, and that's commercials, right? That's what they're trained to do.
Yeah. Okay.
So everything is
Yeah. Okay.
everything is trying to sell a car or sell something. And then I went to New York, and like the fourth person who came through the door was Danielle Harris. And she was probably only 10 to play even younger. And I knew I wasn't even gonna, I mean, of course I did read her, but I knew like she came in the door and okay, well that's her. Anyway, so that's my story.
Wild.
We found her in New York and knew the minute she came through the door. She had such poise and such composure, and then she had these big movie eyes. So when Michael's coming after her, in a close up, it's just
Yes.
your cat just snuck out behind
Of
you.
course. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's her all the time.
Yeah.
She knows when I'm doing these things. She loves to interrupt. And it looks
She's
like
like,
I have
what?
like a haunted house when my door opens and she's not there at the first. Yeah. I've
It's
scared
like,
a
what?
number of people by accident.
This one, she's walking by. Anyway, so maybe that's too much information, but yeah,
No, not at all.
war was a very quick thing, and I was blessed with the fact that I was working with Alan on another script. So when I went in to pitch it and turned to Alan to help me, he was right there. He's the perfect guy for it, and yeah, then I mean I knew that Donald Pleasance was coming back subject to the script. He had to approve the script.
Uh-huh. Okay.
But to work with him, and it was a great opportunity. But 10 years later, people thought that franchise died. They thought it was gone.
And I love Halloween 4. I'm not just saying that because we're talking. I will defend Halloween 4 to people and talk about how I actually really like Halloween 4. So I was excited to chat with you because a friend and I are staunch Halloween 4 supporters and lovers forever. So
We have our fans. We have a few critics. But people, it's a sequel people do seem to like overall.
yeah. Well, and again, like that was a hard responsibility to bring Michael back after the third one too. Like I do not envy that task at hand and being that next film after the third one at
Well,
all.
there was a lot of pressure, but
Yeah.
I kept saying to myself, Dwight, don't make a horror movie. That was what was in my, sounds really odd, but I was like, Dwight,
Oh.
don't make a horror movie. Make a police procedural about an escaped serial killer. That's what was in my head. I was like, don't
Okay.
don't worry about every jump scare and every piece of mythology about Michael. Just make a police procedural,
Mm.
like a Silence of the Lambs or something. And
Yeah.
Loomis was the cop, the detective, even though he's just the doctor.
Yeah.
And and Michael's the the escaped serial killer going into a town to wreak havoc. And I just tried to build it with the same tension that you would build if it wasn't a Michael Myers movie.
Yeah.
I think that was my trick because it made me not overthink every moment.
Yes, I can imagine that's hard, like needing to get out of that headspace of being like, oh my God, this is a
Right.
Michael Myers movie. Like, how do
Right.
I? Yeah.
So then I think, well, how am I going to do this thing? How am I going to do this thing? I think, well, what would I do,
Yeah.
if we were on the hunt for, I don't know, Benicio del Toro, not to pick on him, but Anthony Hopkins or somebody.
Yeah.
What would I do in that? Now, there were a couple times where I wanted to make it supernatural. There's a pretty well-known shot in the diner where Michael's just standing there facing Loomis, and there's kind of a strange glow around him, which we accomplished in the camera. And I tried to do these little flourishes with him every so often. Did you know about the Halloween Horror Nights that Halloween 4 had a maze? So out here we have a thing called the Halloween
Yeah.
Horror Nights. It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
deal at the Universal Studios.
Oh, yeah.
And for 2 years in a row, they had a Halloween 4 maze.
That's right. That's right. They did have a
Yeah,
Halloween 4 maze.
and it was insane because
That's so cool.
they built the house, they built the drugstore, it was like walking into the movie. It tripped me out, and the lines were around the block, but
That's so cool.
they did that drugstore scene. It was really fun.
That's gonna be so cool to be like, wait, this is my movie as a maze at Halloween
I'm
Horror. Like,
like walking
what?
into my
The
movie.
full
It was so trippy. They had the garage, the gas station.
Oh yes, I remember the gas station was the thing I remember about it for some
Yeah,
reason, just when I was seeing people talk about it.
yeah, it was really fun. They did it twice. I
That's so
missed it.
cool.
Now this year there's a Halloween Horror Nights. I'm all sad because we
I've
don't
never
have.
gone, but I need to go. I will. I
Yeah,
get so scared so the thing is, I love in person. I am like the haunt actor's like best friend. I get scared so easily. I'm like catnip for them.
okay. Oh, you would like some of these mazes. They have a Walking Dead one. Whatever is popular that year, they tend to have.
Yeah, and they're so like they're usually so well done. The actors and everything are so
They
cool.
spend money. I mean,
They really do.
they make them there. It's scary.
So, but this wasn't the only franchise. You also worked on Freddy's Nightmares, the incredible television show, and you did one episode, correct? Is that you only did
This
one
one
episode?
episode, I came
Okay.
in after Halloween, and full disclosure, my episode, I didn't have Freddy. It was weird
Oh,
because
weird. Okay.
I know it's really weird. I think it was called Do Dreams Bleed, I think was the name of the episode.
Yep.
And it's a standalone episode. It
Huh.
was actually written by a guy who became a very big studio executive. Um, anyway, I didn't work with Robert on that, but then like a few months later, after doing Freddy's Nightmares, I was in a room with Robert talking about Phantom of the Opera. It was
Yeah.
because that came then in '89. And so then we went off to Budapest to shoot that, and he was fantastic.
Did you say earlier that the Phantom of the Opera was one of the personal favorites that you've worked on and that you directed?
Absolutely one of my.
Really? Tell me more
I
about why.
well, here's why, because it's very artistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's very thematic. It has a lot of interesting human condition stuff. When we came out, the Lloyd Webber Broadway musical people hated the movie because it was full of gore and it was full of Freddy gore. So they dismissed it. And then all the horror, Robert Englund, Freddy people, it was opera. And they were like, what? I don't care about any of this, right? So we managed to miss both demographics. And everybody was pissed off. It was unbelievable. But 20 years later, there was this Blu-ray that came out. And it was beautiful Blu-ray, and everybody kind of rediscovered this movie. And now the mail comes in, people want to do interviews and they're writing books about it because the expectations are all gone now because it's been so long.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
Okay.
they're not reviewing the Phantom of the Opera that they expected to see. They're revealing the film as it actually is.
Yeah.
And if you, I don't know if you have ever had a chance to revisit the film, but it is very, very smart and very evocative. Robert's over the top. Jill Schoelen is a great Christine Day, and it's beautifully produced by the old Canon Films. I mean, big, beautiful, and we do have performances in opera, and the only thing we didn't have was the chandelier. We couldn't afford the chandelier, but we got everything. So anyway, it is it's a fascinating film. It's not what anybody expected, but now it seems to be have found its niche.
I need to revisit it because it's the production value is gorgeous. And again, it's Robert Englund.
Try again.
It's just so
Try
cool.
again. For those who didn't like it the first time, try again. You'll see what's in that movie. You'll see.
Well, and you talked about how you've gone into TV directing and film directing, and what has that been like? Like, what is the biggest difference for you in moving from features into television?
Well, because I came up in features, I was pretty much used to, except, financial budget problems and so forth. I was kind of the guy, there's not a lot of writers on set, and all the questions are referred to you, and you're the monarch, you're the king in features. Because if you think of a film, you think, oh, that's a Chris Nolan movie, or that's a David Fincher movie, or that's a Martin
Yeah.
Scorsese. We think of the movies with their directors because the director is the creative force. When you think about television, you often think about maybe Ryan Murphy or Shonda Rhimes or David Kelly or John Wells. In other words, the writer is
Yeah.
really the creative force because it has to be sustained over 24 episodes. And the director is in a collaborative position where he's trying, or she, to realize the world that the writers already invented. So you use all your directing skills, although there's always less time and less money. But you're not really the boss. And it's okay if you accept it. If you don't accept it, it's a pain in the ass. Because you're used to making decisions and having
Yeah.
to do whatever you say and hop to. But in TV, you got to clear it with the executives, the showrunner, the writers, sometimes even the advertisers, the studio executives. It's so top heavy that you don't get to just run around and make decisions. It's very corporate.
Oh, interesting.
And even the advertisers have a lot to say about content. I mean, because if you think about these shows like Prison Break or 24, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on the network, those advertisers, Prius, Carnival Cruises, AT&T, whoever it is,
Yeah.
they have an agenda, right? And they have a say. So it is
Huh.
different for a director.
That's so interesting. I haven't heard that before in terms of like the differences, like what the big difference is, and that is really interesting. Especially, I just directed a feature, and so that idea of like you being kind of like this direct creative force versus with TV is really interesting.
And you were the boss.
Yeah.
You're the boss. You're the boss lady.
Tried to be the
Yeah.
boss. No,
Well,
I would. Yeah.
well, congratulations. But yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
you
Yeah.
have all with, what's the Spider-Man thing, with great something comes great
With great
response.
power comes great responsibility. Oh yeah,
And
seriously. I mean,
so,
directing, good Lord.
and then you hate yourself in the cutting room because I always say, who the fuck directed this? This is what I always say.
And you're like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah. Because
damn it.
you never get everything you wanted. You never get every shot you wanted. You never get every performance you wanted. And so it's
Oh
true
yeah.
for everybody.
It is. But and it's good, and it's reaffirming to hear that, because you're always like, am I the only one who can't do
Oh,
this?
you're
And
not.
it's like, no, we're all just
No,
like incredibly self-critical and hard on
yeah.
ourselves as
Like,
as
why
creators.
didn't I do one more setup, or
I know.
why didn't I do one more take, and all those questions.
Well, you also just directed a horror movie this year, Natty
Oh no,
Knocks.
I want to pitch this movie because it's just like Phantom. It's a very polarizing movie.
Yeah.
It's called Natty Knocks,
Yeah.
and it's got my some of my old pals in it, Robert Englund,
Yeah.
the great Danielle Harris, and excuse me, Bill Moseley. But it's sort of largely centered on a young cast
Hmm.
who we adore. And I wanted to make just like a really fun Halloween movie. And I just love the idea of the killer, Bill Moseley. His mother was a '70s horror movie star, fell on hard times and became a prostitute. And so he's I guess infected is the right words by all these grindhouse movies that his mother made. Anyway, this movie is great. Now, the people who saw Robert, Bill, and Danielle and thought, oh, this is going to be a gore fest. Again, with expectations, they see the movie and it's like, wait a minute, this is not what I expected. And they get upset because
Okay.
with those actors, I expected, I don't know, limbs to come flying off or something. The people who just love the kids and are in it for like a fun Friday night Halloween movie love it. So it's one of these movies where we get
Okay.
four stars and 1 star, or three and a half
Okay.
stars and two. It's like it's very polarizing,
Huh.
and it all has to do with expectations. It's like
Okay.
if you're expecting, kind of a Eli Roth gore fest, or Sam Raimi Evil Dead 2, it's not going to be there.
Okay.
But if you're looking for kind of the Goonies meets Disturbia, it's really fun. And I mean,
Okay.
there's scares in it, and there are some jump scares, and people do get killed, but it's not primarily, a slasher
I
movie.
was going to say it's not the slasher people might expect it to
That's
be.
right. But if they give it a chance, they're going to love it. So
Okay.
I encourage all your listeners and followers, give it a chance. You can see it for free on Tubi.
And it's
Um,
perfect Halloween season watching.
It's perfect. It's a great like sit down on Friday night, watch a Halloween movie. You can also
Cool.
get it on Amazon or iTunes or any of those VOD places. But
Sweet.
people, if they just want to hang out and have some popcorn, and there are scares in it, and the babysitter is played by a newcomer, and she's named Charlotte Fountain Hardin, and she's fantastic.
Hell yeah. Okay. Well, everyone needs to check that out for this
So
Halloween.
I'm selling that hard.
Yes,
Natty.
I will, and again, like I thought it was going to be a slasher. I haven't seen it yet. I thought it was a slasher, but you calling it the Goonies meets Disturbia has me very interested, very
It's a
excited.
Halloween thriller is a better word.
Yeah, and those are fun. It's
Yeah.
the perfect time to watch that.
And it's fun. It's not too dark, and
Yeah,
it's
we
not.
love,
What
as
was
much
I
as I love a
watching?
good dark horror movie, I also just love a good fun
Yeah, this is
entertaining,
much more fun. Because I
Yeah.
just saw it recently. I just saw Talk to Me, and I
Ah.
thought the lead. Have you seen it yet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the lead performance of the girl was spectacular. She's something else.
Yes, she's
What
incredible.
did they call her, Millie, or I don't remember, but she was something else. But the movie to me was very, I don't know, maybe I'm just not smart enough. I was very hard for me to follow this movie. I
Oh really? Okay.
I didn't quite understand the origin story of the hand. I really didn't make I had the trouble with the Australian accents too, a little bit. I wasn't
Okay.
hearing maybe everything. And some of the gore I thought was, I'm just not in it for that so much. Like
Okay.
when the kid is throwing his head against every wall and every door. Okay, see, this is where I have a logic police problem, because that kid is dead. Okay, he's not like in the hospital in a coma. He's just dead.
It's a horror movie, Dwight. It's
Well,
fine.
that's well, you're right. And then I have a hard time because I go, well, wait a minute. So, but the point is that movie is dark.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's like
Oh, it's not a
it's
feel good. You don't come out of that
no, it's
like
like
happy.
my mother's dead, and I'm talking to the other side, and this kid is in hell. I guess he was in hell, and then she's dead on the freeway at the end. She comes back, I guess, as a ghost. And then I don't know what the last shot is with the hand, and she's in hell. I don't know. But nevertheless, it's dark. And so but people loved it. I mean, I
I
understand it.
was
It,
I didn't I
it,
really liked it. But I
you
also
know,
like dark. I like really dark stuff.
you know what happened at the end? I mean, I don't know if
I think
you,
it's very much up to interpretation. Is she dead? Did she jump in front of the car or was she pushed? And I think it's very much that kind of leaving it up for a little bit of interpretation about what
okay.
exactly is happening
But
there.
the kid whose body was alive in the hospital, his soul was being tortured in hell, right? That was the thing.
That was yeah, what they were saying, yeah.
Yeah, the only way to save him was to kill him, kill I don't know. I got a little frustrated with it. I love Black
Okay.
Phone. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, I did. I love that too. I love that one too.
I just thought, I don't know. So some of the horror movies, I do really, really like. I did, I'm not a fan of Talk to Me, but it doesn't matter because it has legions of fans. But I just, I'm not,
I think what I liked about it too is it hit a kind of it spoke to a younger generation of horror fans too. You know what I mean?
completely. Yeah, yeah.
Because those guys are YouTubers and like they made something that I think is really bridging that gap for horror in a way that I'm really happy about, like with
It was
younger
very
audiences.
professionally made, though.
Yeah. And I they're gonna make a prequel to it, which is interesting. We'll see. I'm not a fan of continuing to do prequels, but it's supposed to be found like a found footage movie, and I love found footage, so I
Well,
will.
maybe they'll tell us where the hand came from.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be like mysterious, like this weird thing, like who knows where the hand came from. But
Right.
that this one, the next one's supposed to kind of explain at least where they got it.
Well, yeah, I'd sort of be interested to know.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know how we got off on that tangent. Tone. I think it's all about tone. I
Yeah.
think that's a dark horror movie with some shocking imagery. And this, well, first of all, our movie is very small, but it's much it's it's breezier, for lack of
A little bit lighter than
yeah,
yeah. Okay. Well, Natty Knocks, everybody. We should watch it all. It's Halloween.
yeah.
Dwight, this has been so nice to get to chat with you about everything, and I'm excited for your book and for these movies. Do you have any other projects coming up that you can tease at all before we wrap up?
Well, I do have an alien thriller called Fast Walkers. And
Ooh.
I've been waiting a long time to do an alien movie, and it is a
Ooh.
horror movie. I don't have a lot more to say because they're
Okay.
trying to put all the financing together right now. But it takes place on the U.S.-Mexican border, and it's a full-on alien scare movie. So,
Ooh.
so I would be excited if
Cool.
we can get that one going.
Awesome. I love a good alien movie. Have you seen No One Will Save You yet on Hulu?
I'm dying to see that. I haven't. I heard it was pretty good.
I loved it. I love alien movies. I have a UFO tattoo on my arm.
Oh
I'm a
my
big
God.
alien
Yeah.
person.
All right.
So I really
I'm
liked
gonna
it.
write that. It's called, I've read about it. It's called No One Will Save You, right?
Yeah, on Hulu.
By the way,
So
when you get a chance, and I'll let you go, but I will say, because they're going to reissue it, if you have a chance, and there's a little bit of horror in it, to watch Last Rampage.
okay,
Uh, and give me some fan service on Last Rampage. Robert Patrick, Heather Graham,
cool.
Bruce Davis, and John Hurd. It's
Wow.
really
Stacked.
it's stacked cast, a gritty prison escape, true story. It's a true crime story.
Oh,
And
okay.
get back to me if you have a chance to see this movie.
Okay.
It is one of my absolute best. Last Rampage.
Okay. Cool. I'll check it out. Cool. Well, Dwight, thank you so much for chatting with me today. This has been awesome.
All right, my pleasure. And
Thank you.
good luck with the rest of Dread Central. It's going good.
Thank you.